Jason Thompson, a millionaire known for his arrogance and extravagant lifestyle, had always lived his life on a whim. His mansion in Beverly Hills was infamous for lavish parties filled with celebrities, champagne fountains, and superficial charm. One lazy Sunday afternoon, bored with his usual diversions, Jason decided to amuse himself by hiring someone who he thought didn't belong in his world. A poor maid named Isabella from a rundown neighborhood downtown. He laughed as he instructed his assistant, Mark, to hire Isabella. "It'll be hilarious," Jason chuckled. "Imagine her face when she sees all this luxury. Bet she'll quit by lunchtime." But Isabella, a petite woman with gentle brown eyes and an aura of quiet dignity, arrived promptly at 8 the next morning. Her simple clothes contrasted sharply with Jason's sleek marble foyer, yet, to his surprise, she didn't seem impressed or intimidated. Her expression remained calm, even serene. Jason watched from afar, sipping coffee with amusement, but his laughter slowly faded as Isabella moved through the mansion with efficiency and a subtle elegance. She polished silver, adjusted paintings, and even straightened out Jason's prized collection of rare books, treating each item with the utmost respect. As she dusted off a family photo, Jason felt a strange pang of discomfort. No one had touched that picture since his parents passed away. Annoyed, he approached her. "Don't touch my personal things," he snapped. "I'm sorry," she replied softly, her voice calm and gentle, but she held his gaze unflinchingly. "I didn't mean to intrude." As she turned back to her work, Jason felt strangely unsettled. Her calm response irritated him more than open defiance. He decided he would make things more difficult. Sure she'd break by the end of the day. That evening, Jason hosted an impromptu gathering to test Isabella. He purposely spilled wine, knocked over furniture, and demanded she clean repeatedly. Guests chuckled, watching Isabella quietly and gracefully handle each mess. When the guests had left, Jason found Isabella carefully putting everything back in order, not one complaint escaping her lips. "Why won't you just quit?" he asked, incredulously. She turned to him, eyes steady, voice soft yet firm. "Because I need this job, Mr. Thompson." Her simple honesty struck a nerve in Jason, igniting curiosity. But what intrigued him more was the quiet strength behind her gentle demeanor. For the first time, Jason felt a spark of genuine interest as Isabella left for the night. Jason couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this woman than he had assumed. And he was right, because Isabella was hiding a secret that would soon turn Jason's world upside down. But as Isabella closed the mansion's front door behind her, Jason received a sudden phone call from his assistant. "Jason, you won't believe who Isabella really is." What did you think of Jason and Isabella's encounter so far? Share your thoughts in the comments. On a scale from 0 to 10, how would you rate this story? Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications to keep up with all our inspiring stories. Jason froze, gripping his phone tightly. "What are you talking about, Mark?" Mark's voice trembled slightly. "Isabella isn't just some poor maid. She's Isabella Rivera, the daughter of Carlos Rivera." Jason felt his blood run cold. Carlos Rivera was a name synonymous with wealth, power, and influence in international business, someone even Jason wouldn't dare disrespect. But Isabella had none of that air about her. She was humble, quiet, nothing like her reputedly fierce father. "Are you absolutely sure?" Jason asked, disbelief coloring his voice. "Completely," Mark assured him. "Her identity was hidden. She must have reasons for pretending to be someone else." Jason paced his opulent living room, bewildered. Why would the daughter of one of the world's most influential businessmen disguise herself as a common maid? Was she spying on him, or was there something else going on? The next day, Jason couldn't help but watch Isabella more carefully. Every simple act took on a deeper meaning. When she carefully organized his bookshelf, he wondered if she was searching for secrets. When she cleaned his private study, he felt paranoia creep in, wondering what she might have uncovered. Eventually, Jason couldn't stand the uncertainty. Approaching her, he demanded, "Isabella, why are you really here?" She paused, dust cloth, midair, her eyes wide with surprise. "I don't understand, Mr. Thompson." Jason took a step closer, his voice low, intense. "I know who you really are. Carlos Rivera's daughter. What game are you playing?" Isabella's expression shifted from surprise to sadness. I'm not here to play games. I'm here because I chose to be. Why? Jason pressed, unable to conceal his frustration. You have everything. Why pretend to have nothing? She took a breath, steadying herself, because having everything taught me nothing. I needed to learn the value of humility, something my father could never understand. Her honesty stunned him into silence. He had expected manipulation, deceit, anything but genuine vulnerability. For the first time, Jason saw the real Isabella, strong yet humble, wealthy yet determined to understand the struggles of others. Why choose my house? Jason finally asked, genuinely curious, because she answered softly. Meeting his gaze, your reputation made you the perfect lesson in humility. I knew this wouldn't be easy, but that's exactly why I chose you. Jason felt a mix of irritation and admiration. No one had ever challenged him this way. Certainly not with such integrity and sincerity. He was accustomed to superficially, not meaningful confrontations. So what now? He asked, feeling strangely vulnerable. Himself. That's up to you, Isabella replied simply. I'll leave if you want. Jason hesitated. Part of him was eager to end this awkward situation, but another part, deeper and quieter, wanted to understand more about this woman who had turned his comfortable world upside down. Stay, he finally said, surprising himself, but no more. Secrets? She nodded, a slight smile touching her lips. No more secrets. That night, Jason lay awake, troubled by conflicting emotions. Isabella had forced him to confront aspects of himself he had long ignored. He felt exposed yet intrigued, defensive yet drawn to her quiet strength. But Jason had no idea that the next morning would bring a revelation far more shocking than Isabella's true identity, something that would push them both to their emotional limits. As dawn broke, Jason's assistant Mark arrived breathless, holding a folder marked urgent. Jason, we have a bigger problem. Isabella's father knows she's here, and he's coming. The morning sun streamed through the mansion's expansive windows, casting warm rays on Jason's anxious face. He stood frozen in the foyer, eyes locked on the urgent folder Mark had just handed him. You're telling me Carlos Rivera knows Isabella is here? Jason asked, feeling dread pulling in his stomach. Mark nodded grimly. Yes, and he's furious. Apparently, he had no idea she was working as a maid. Now he's on his way. Jason rubbed his temples, anxiety rising rapidly. Carlos Rivera was notoriously protective and ruthless. If he thought Jason was exploiting his daughter, the consequences would be devastating, both personally and professionally. Just then, Isabella walked into the foyer, unaware of the storm brewing around her. Good morning, she greeted softly, her voice gentle yet cautious as she noticed the tension between the two men. Isabella. Jason started hesitantly, struggling to keep his voice steady. Your father found out you're here. The color drained from Isabella's face instantly. What? How? I don't know, Jason admitted, showing her the folder, but he's on his way here now. Isabella's hands trembled slightly as she took a step back, clearly shaken. This wasn't supposed to happen, she whispered, panic edging into her voice. I never wanted him involved. Jason saw fear in her eyes for the first time, a vulnerability that deeply unsettled him. We'll figure this out, he said, trying to reassure her, though he had no clue how. But before they could even begin planning, the roar of an approaching car shattered the uneasy silence. A sleek black limousine pulled up to the mansion's entrance, and moments later, the formidable Carlos Rivera emerged, his presence alone filling Jason with dread. Isabella. Carlos's voice boomed through the foyer as he burst inside. What is the meaning of this? Isabella stood rigid, visibly torn between defiance and fear. Father, please, she pleaded softly, stepping forward. Let me explain. Carlos turned sharply toward Jason, eyes blazing with fury. Explain what? That my daughter is scrubbing your floors. Like a common servant? Are you mocking me? Jason raised his hands defensively. Mr. Rivera, I swear, I had no idea who she was. Liar, Carlos roared. Men like you always know. Always scheming, manipulating. Dad, stop, Isabella shouted suddenly, surprising both men. Her voice was strong, authoritative, a sharp contrast to her usual calm demeanor. Jason isn't lying. He genuinely didn't know. Carlos paused, seemingly stunned by his daughter's assertiveness. But his voice softened only slightly. Then why, Isabella? Why degrade yourself? Because I needed to understand the world beyond our privilege, Isabella explained passionately. Something you've never allowed me to do. Jason didn't exploit me. If anything, he challenged me to face reality. Carlos narrowed his eyes, suspicion lingering. And you expect me to believe this millionaire playboy had no ulterior motive? Jason swallowed hard, stepping forward, his heart hammering. Mr. Rivera, your daughter is the first person who's ever made me question my lifestyle. Believe it or not, her decision to come here has changed me. Carlos studied Jason carefully, skepticism still evident. You truly expect me to accept that? Father, Isabella pleaded gently, touching his arm. Please trust me. I chose this path for myself. Carlos sighed heavily, visibly conflicted. Isabella, you're playing with fire. Men like him, men like me can change. Jason interrupted firmly, surprising himself with his conviction. And your daughter made me realize that. If you're worried about her safety, I understand. But I promise I mean her no harm. Carlos stared at Jason, weighing his words carefully. Tension thickening the air. Isabella stood silently, hope flickering in her eyes. Finally, Carlos exhaled, his voice low but firm. Very well, but mark my words. Mr. Thompson, if I discover you've deceived me or her, you'll regret it deeply. As Carlos walked back to his limousine, Isabella and Jason exchanged a glance, a mixture of relief and lingering anxiety shared between them. But their brief moment of solace was short-lived, because just as they began to believe the worst was behind them, Jason received another unexpected call, one that would drag them both deeper into uncertainty and danger. Jason's phone rang abruptly. Answering hesitantly, he felt his heart sink at the panicked voice on the other end. Jason, there's something else. Isabella isn't just here for humility, she's running from something, and it's coming straight for both of you. Jason stood frozen, the voice on the phone echoing in his mind like a siren. She's running from something, and it's coming for both of you. He didn't even have time to ask what it was before the call dropped out. Isabella looked at him, concerned. Who was it? Jason hesitated. I don't know. But they said you're hiding from something, and that we're both in danger. Her expression changed instantly. A flicker of fear passed through her eyes, but she covered it quickly. Jason, there are things I haven't told you. Things I hoped I could leave behind. Jason stepped closer. You said no more secrets. She nodded, slowly, and I meant it. But you need to understand, this wasn't just about finding humility. It was about survival. She sat down on the edge of the staircase, her voice quieter now. 2 years ago, I discovered that someone close to my father was laundering money using his companies as cover. I brought it to him, expecting him to act. Jason listened, captivated, but he didn't. He said exposing it would destroy everything he built. He told me to forget it ever happened. And you didn't. Jason gets double quotes. No, I couldn't. Her voice broke slightly. I reported it anonymously, or at least, I thought I did. A few months later, someone tried to run me off the road. Then our family lawyer was found dead. It wasn't an accident. Jason's face paled. Are you saying someone's trying to kill you? I disappeared, changed my name, cut ties with everyone. I needed to find somewhere invisible, somewhere no one would think to look. That's when I applied here, under a fake name. Jason took a deep breath, struggling to absorb everything. And now your father knows where you are, which means they might too. Isabella nodded. If Carlos tells the wrong person, they'll come for me, for both of us. Jason's brain was racing. In just 48 hours, a joke hire had turned into a life-threatening conspiracy. He ran a hand through his hair, pacing. We need to call the police. They're not safe either, Isabella said firmly. This thing, whatever it is, it's connected to powerful people, people who can make things disappear. Jason looked at her. Then what do we do? There was silence for a moment. Then Isabella said something Jason never expected. We fight back. He blinked. What? We gather proof. We make it public. If I disappear again, it'll be for good. But if we expose them, they can't hide anymore. Jason stared at her, suddenly seeing her not as the quiet maid or the wealthy heiress, but as a warrior, a survivor. Someone who'd been through hell and came out stronger. And despite everything, he felt something else, something deeper than admiration. He was falling for her. "We'll do it together," he said, voice steady. But just as they made this decision, headlights swept across the driveway again. Another car, unmarked, slow, menacing. Jason and Isabella ducked behind the curtain, peeking out. Two men in black suits stepped out, scanning the area with precision. One of them pulled something from his coat, a silencer. Jason whispered, "They found you." Isabella grabbed his arm, eyes fierce. "No, they found us." Jason's heart pounded as he and Isabella crouched behind the heavy velvet curtains. The muffled sound of the men's footsteps echoed off the marble floors. Every second felt like an hour. Jason had faced ruthless CEOs and billion-dollar negotiations, but never life or death danger. "What do we do?" he whispered. Isabella's face was pale, but her eyes were laser-focused. "There's a hidden hallway behind the wine cellar. My father had it installed in all his properties just in case. I noticed the blueprint in your study yesterday." Jason blinked. "You memorized the blueprint of my house?" She didn't even flinch. "Old habits. Come on." They moved quickly and silently, slipping through a side passage. As the intruders entered the living room, Jason caught a glimpse of one man's face, gold, emotionless, efficient. These weren't random thugs. These were professionals. Inside the wine cellar, Isabella pressed her palm against a section of brick. It clicked inward, revealing a narrow, dark corridor. They stepped inside just as a muffled voice rang out from the hallway above. "She's here. I could feel it." Jason shut the panel quietly behind them, heart racing. The corridor smelled of dust and old stone. Isabella led the way, moving fast but careful. Jason followed, his mind spinning. When they reached the end, they emerged in the garage. Jason opened a hidden compartment in the wall, a place he stored collector cars and emergency gear. "Take this," he said, handing her a phone. "It's encrypted. Only one contact inside, my lawyer. He's the only one I trust." Isabella nodded, slipping it into her pocket. Then she turned to him, her face finally softening. "Thank you for believing me." Jason met her gaze. "I don't know what this is yet, but I'm in it with you." She hesitated. "There's something else you should know." He braced himself. The person behind the threats, the one who ordered the hit on the lawyer, wasn't just someone inside my father's empire. Jason frowned. "Then who?" She looked him dead in the eye. "It was your company's largest investor, Gregory Brandt." Jason felt like the floor dropped beneath him. Gregory Brandt, the billionaire tech mogul who had bankrolled half of Thompson Enterprises. A man Jason considered untouchable. A man he just had dinner with last week. "No," Jason muttered. "That doesn't make sense. Gregory's ruthless, sure, but murder? He's more than ruthless." Isabella said, "He's been laundering money through both our family networks. My father turned a blind eye. Yours might be helping him without even knowing." Jason staggered back. "If this gets out, I lose everything." She took a step closer. "So do I. But if we stay silent, more people die." Jason's thoughts spun like a tornado. His fortune, his name, his empire, everything he'd built now stood on the edge of collapse. But Isabella was right. This wasn't just about them anymore. Before he could answer, the garage lights flickered and shut off. Everything plunged into darkness. Then came the sound of glass shattering upstairs and footsteps. There in the house, Isabella whispered, "Jason, grab a crowbar from the tool shelf. We make it to the Range Rover. I'll drive. You duck down, no matter what happens. Don't stop moving." Together, they crept toward the vehicle. But halfway there, the garage door began to open from the outside. More of them. They were being boxed in. Jason turned to Isabella, eyes fierce. "If we're getting out of here, we fight now." The garage was a silent war zone, the tension so thick it felt like breathing through concrete. Jason held the crowbar tightly, sweat rolling down his temple as the garage door creaked open. Headlights sliced through the darkness, illuminating silhouettes, three figures, moving with military precision. Isabella gripped his arm. "We won't outrun them like this." Jason glanced around, calculating every option. He had one shot. Backseat of the Rover. Hide behind the seats. When I distract them, You slip into the tunnel behind the fuse panel. It leads to the servant quarters. Wait there. No. She whispered. I'm not leaving you alone. You have to. If they catch us both, it's over. Before she could argue again, the men stepped into the garage. Jason kicked over a box of tools, sending a cascade of metal crashing across the floor. He sprinted toward the workbench, drawing there. Attention, freeze. One of the intruders shouted, raising a silenced pistol. Jason raised his hand slowly, standing under the light. You don't want to do this. The men didn't respond. Their movements were clinical, devoid of emotion. Meanwhile, Isabella slipped into the shadows. She found the panel Jason mentioned and opened it, squeezing through the tight space just as the men advanced on Jason. Where's she? One growled, his voice deep and methodical. Jason forced a smirk. She left. An hour ago. You're late. A punch landed in Jason's ribs, knocking the air out of him. We're not here to ask twice. Jason's mind raced. He had to buy time. Back in the hidden passage, Isabella crawled in darkness, her breathing shallow. Every sound echoed her own heartbeat, the distant voices, the tension pounding in her ears. Suddenly, she stopped. Someone else was in the tunnel. Don't move, a voice whispered. She turned, heart slamming against her chest. A flashlight flicked on. But it wasn't one of the intruders. It was her father's bodyguard, Tomas. Tall, stocky, with a face marked by scars and years of silence. Tomas, she whispered, confused. What are you doing here? Your father sent me after you ran. He kept me watching from a distance. He wanted to protect you, even if you hated him. I don't hate him, she breathed. I just couldn't watch him do nothing. Then you need to see this, Tomas said, handing her a drive. Proof of everything. Gregory Brandt's operations. Names, dates, accounts. Isabella clutched it tightly. This could destroy him. That's why they want you gone. Suddenly, gunshots echoed from the garage. Jason Dachi took off down the tunnel, Tomas following close behind in the garage. Jason had managed to tackle one of the men, but had been thrown hard against the Rover's hood. Blood trickled from his eyebrow. He grabbed the crowbar again, swinging wildly, determined to protect the woman he barely knew but deeply respected. Then, like lightning, the side door burst open and Isabella appeared. Jason down. She tossed something across the room. A small fire extinguisher clattered and exploded in a cloud of white, blinding the attackers. Tomas moved it swiftly, taking it down with clean, brutal precision. Jason coughed and laughed. I told you to hide and miss the fun. Isabella shot back, pulling him up. With Tomas covering the rear, they jumped into the Rover. Jason slammed the accelerator, bursting through the second garage door and roaring out into the night. They didn't speak for a while, just breathed, alive, together, covered in bruises and adrenaline. Eventually, Isabella turned to him. You still want to help me? Jason didn't even hesitate. I want to burn this whole thing to the ground. But as they sped down the coastal highway, Isabella's burner phone rang. The voice on the other end? Gregory Brandt. Isabella. Jason, I know where you're headed, and I'd like to offer you both the deal. Jason stared at the phone in disbelief. The voice was smooth, casual, almost amused. Jason. Isabella, you'd have been quite busy, Gregory said. You've made some very powerful people nervous, but I'm not calling to threaten you. Jason put the call on speaker, knuckles white around the wheel. Then why are you calling? Gregory, to offer you a lifeline. He said calmly, turn over the flash drive. Walk away. No police. No media circus. You both get new identities, offshore accounts, and a clean break. Isabella clenched her fists. You think we'd make a deal with the man who tried to kill me? Gregory chuckled. You misunderstand me. I never wanted you dead, Isabella. I wanted you silent. There's a difference. And Jason, I know what this will do to your company, to your legacy. I'm offering you a parachute. Jason's mind raced. He glanced at Isabella, then back at the road. Why us? Why not just make us disappear? Gregory's tone darkened slightly. Because I respect the game, and you've played well. But you're not killers. You're not me. You still have a choice. Burn everything, or take the escape hatch. The call ended abruptly. Silence. Jason pulled over near a coastal lookout. The ocean stretched endlessly ahead of them, waves crashing against the rocks below. The air was thick with salt, wind, and decisions. Isabella stepped out of the car, staring at the horizon. He's scared. That's why he called. Jason nodded, slowly. But he's not bluffing. If we go public, we'll be targets. Forever. She turned to him. You don't have to do this. I dragged you into this. It's not your fight. Jason stepped closer. Isabella, it became my fight the moment you told me the truth. And somewhere along the way, it became something more. She looked up at him, eyes glistening. Jason, I'm not walking away. Not from you. Not from this. They stood in silence, the wind blowing around them, hearts racing in unison. Tomas approached, holding a small envelope. We intercepted a message meant for Brandt's men. He's planning to move the funds. Tonight, if we leak this to the right journalist, we blow the entire network wide open. Jason took the envelope, glanced at the contents, bank statements, shell companies, transaction logs, everything they needed. But there was more in address. A final meeting, one last transaction, and Gregory Brandt would be there. Isabella looked at Jason. We could end it, for real. Jason nodded, but it'll be dangerous. He'll have protection. I'm not afraid anymore, she said quietly. He tried to erase me. Now I erase him. Jason looked at her, this woman he once hired as a joke, now the fiercest person he knew. They made the plan. Tomas would scout the location. Isabella and Jason would go in separately, disguised. Cameras rolling, data ready to upload. As the sun set, they headed inland toward a sprawling private estate on the outskirts of the city. Jason checked his watch. We go in at midnight. Let's change the story, Isabella said. But as they pulled up to the gates, something unexpected happened. A black SUV blocked their path. And from it stepped a woman Isabella hadn't seen in years. Her mother. Mom. Isabella whispered, frozen. What are you doing here? Her mother's eyes were cold. I came to stop you. You have no idea who you're really up against. Isabella stepped out of the car slowly, her legs shaking beneath her. The last time she had seen her mother was before she disappeared, before she blew the whistle, before the threats, before the silence, and now here she was, perfectly composed, standing like a ghost from a life Isabella had buried. Why are you here? Isabella asked, her voice barely holding steady. Her mother's expression was unreadable. Because I begged your father to let you run. I told him it was too dangerous. But now, you've taken it too far. Jason stepped beside Isabella, protective. She's risking her life to expose a monster. Her mother's gaze flicked. To him. And who are you? Another rich boy who thinks saving her will cleanse his guilt. Jason flinched. Isabella stepped forward. He's with me, all the way. Her mother shook her head. You think you're brave, but you're reckless. You don't understand the scale of what you're stepping into. Gregory Brandt isn't just laundering money. He's tied to political funding, foreign interests, weapons trade. This isn't just about business anymore. Isabella's heart pounded. She looked at her mother. You knew. You always knew. Her mother hesitated, then nodded slowly. I did, and I stayed quiet, because I had 2 children to protect. Your brother is still in boarding school. He doesn't know anything. If you go through with this, they'll come for him too. Tears welled in Isabella's eyes. You're trying to guilt me into silence. I'm trying to keep you alive. Jason stepped forward, gently placing a hand on Isabella's back. You don't have to choose between truth and family. We'll protect him too. Her mother's voice cracked. You're just a people against a machine. Sometimes, Isabella whispered, that's all it takes. Silence hung in the air. Then her mother reached into her coat and pulled out a flash drive. This is everything I've kept hidden. I don't know how long it'll buy you, but it's a head start. Brandt's files, encrypted emails, safe house locations. Isabella stared, stunned. You were keeping records? I couldn't stop what was happening, her mother said, voice trembling. But I could prepare for the day you'd try. Jason took the drive, nodding with gratitude. As her mother stepped back toward the SUV, she looked at Isabella one last time. Finish this or run, but either way, don't die for it. With that, she was gone. The drive to the estate resumed its silence. Isabella sat in the back seat, staring at the new drive. Thoughts swirling, family, betrayal, loyalty, truth. Jason broke the silence. You okay? She nodded. Just trying to remember who I was before all this. Jason reached over. I don't know who you were before, but I know who you are now. She smiled faintly. Who? Someone who scares. Billionaires. Someone who made me believe in something for the first time. Tomas's voice crackled through the radio. The state perimeter is soft. The guards posted. Bran will be inside for another 90 minutes. Let's move, Isabella said. They changed clothes, black suits, masks, comms. Jason wore a discreet body cam. Isabella carried a copy of the drive strapped to her thigh. They infiltrated the property through the east wall. Tomas took out the first guard silently. Jason and Isabella slid through the kitchen, up the back stairwell. Every room was glass and marble, decadence built on blood. They found Brant in a private conference room laughing, sipping bourbon, finalizing one last deal on his laptop. Isabella pressed record. She stepped into the room, gun in hand, camera live. Smile. Gregory, you're about to go viral. Gregory Brant didn't flinch. He slowly raised his glass, took a sip of bourbon, and set it down with deliberate calm. Well, he said, smirking, that took longer than I expected. Jason stepped in behind Isabella, weapon trained, eyes scanning the room. Gregory's posture remained relaxed to relaxed. Don't bother with the gun, Gregory said, gesturing casually to the security camera above. This room is soundproof, sealed, and already broadcasting to my security team. You'll be dead in 5 minutes. Isabella's grip tightened. They won't get here in time. Gregory arched a brow. You sure about that? Suddenly, Tomas's voice crackled through their comms. You have 2 minutes. I've jammed the signals, but backup is on the way. Jason stepped forward. Here's what you're going to do. Bran, you're going to copy the files you've got on that laptop to this drive. He tossed a flash stick onto the desk. Then you're going to sit tight and smile for the camera, or I make this viral now. Gregory leaned back in his leather chair. And ruin yourself in the process? Jason, come on. You're a businessman. If this gets out, your company burns too. You'll be ruined. Everything your father built will turn to ash. Jason's jaw clenched. Better ashes than blood money. Gregory chuckled. You've changed. Jason shot back. No. I finally woke up. Isabella stepped closer. You tried to kill me. You hunted me for 2 years. I have names, accounts, and now your face, on camera, lying, explaining, smirking while people die. Gregory stood, slowly. I don't need to smirk. I have backups, and even if you kill me, this machine runs without me, but not without the face. Isabella said, you are the mask, and we're about to rip it off. He stared at her for a long moment, and then he smiled. I underestimated you. Jason nodded. Everyone does. That's the mistake. They moved quickly. Isabella secured the laptop. Jason wiped the drives clean. Tomas whispered in 30 seconds. Suddenly, the lights in the room flickered. Jason turned. We've been made. Alarms wailed across the property. Outside, searchlights activated. Armed guards mobilized. Like ants from a disturbed nest. Gregory laughed. And so the clock strikes midnight. Jason grabbed Isabella's hand. Time to go. But Gregory didn't sit still. As Jason turned his back, a gun clicked. Gregory had one hidden under the desk. Drop it. He barked. But before he could pull the trigger crack, Tomas shot through the glass door, dropping Gregory instantly. Blood sprayed. Silence fell. Jason exhaled. Thanks, Tomas motioned. Move. Now. They ran through halls, down staircases, bullets pinging off marble. Isabella clutched the laptop like a lifeline. Jason covered her, sweeping corners, kicking doors. They reached the perimeter wall, ducking into the getaway car Tomas had prepped. Tires screamed as they peeled away into the night. Jason looked back. The estate was swarming with black-clad men, lights blazing, chaos unfolding. In the back seat, Isabella opened the laptop. It's all here, every last file. Jason reached for her hand. We did it. But as their hands touched, a phone rang, a burner, untraceable, hidden under the seat. Jason picked it up. A deep, calm voice spoke. You have no idea what you've started. The voice continued, Gregory was just a pawn. Now, the real war begins. Jason gripped the phone tighter, the words reverberating in his ear like a warning bell. You've just made enemies you can't even see yet, the voice said. But don't worry, we see you. Click. Silence. Jason slowly lowered the phone. They're still watching us. Isabella sat quietly, laptop on her lap, face illuminated by the flickering screen. We always knew it wouldn't end with Brant. Tomas, eyes fixed on the road ahead, didn't look back. Then we go louder, bigger. You leak that footage now. They'll have to play defense. Jason nodded. We'll leak it all. Everything. The car raced down the mountain highway toward an undisclosed safe house. One of Tomas's private contacts, far beyond the reach of anyone who might be tracking them. Isabella plugged the laptop into a portable signal scrambler and hit a command. Every file, every recording, every document, uploaded in real time to a secure cloud, mirrored across over 50 dark web nodes and forwarded to a short list of trusted journalists, whistleblower platforms, and public defenders. Jason turned to her. Once you hit enter, there's no coming back. Isabella stared at the screen. Then she hit it. Send. A heartbeat passed. Then another. On the screen, confirmation, upload complete. Isabella exhaled. It's out there. Finally, Jason smiled, but it was bittersweet. We'll never be able to go back to who we were. Isabella nodded. Good. That person was hiding. Tomas pulled into a heavily secured gate, where the guards with armored vests nodded silently and opened access. Inside was a secluded compound, secure lines, no cameras, analog only. Inside, a wall of television showed a live feed from multiple news outlets. One by one, the stories broke. Breaking, international billionaire implicated in global laundering scheme. Exclusive, tech investor exposed for criminal ties. Whistleblowers reveal shocking files. Anonymous source uploads full archive of financial crimes, names major political donors. The world was watching. The storm had begun, but so had the retaliation. Jason's encrypted inbox began flooding cease and desist, corporate threats, anonymous warnings. One message simply read, We're coming. Still, the moment wasn't fear. It was clarity. He looked at Isabella. We just rewrote the rules. She looked at him, something soft blooming behind her exhaustion. No, we just told the truth. Outside the compound, someone watched from a hilltop, binoculars in hand, voice transmitting over radio. They're in Alert Alpha. The voice on the radio said, They think it's over. Phase 2 begins at dawn. The compound remained quiet through the night, almost too quiet. Inside, Isabella sat cross-legged on the floor, staring at one of the screens. Dozens of anchors around the world repeated her name now, once hidden under false identities, now spoken as a symbol of defiance. Jason paced nearby, reading the mails, coordinating with lawyers, fielding requests for interviews. He was officially off the board at Thompson Enterprises, forced to resign within 12 hours of the leaks. The board had panicked. Investors fled, but he didn't regret it. Not anymore. Isabella glanced at him. I'm sorry. For what? He asked. For destroying everything you built. Jason smiled softly. You didn't destroy it. You revealed what it was built on. That needed to happen. She stood and walked over to him. Then what do we build now? Jason looked down at her, tired, bruised, unbreakable. Something that matters. Outside, Tomas scanned the perimeter, weapons slung over his shoulder, eyes darting. The radio had gone silent. No new chatter, just wind to still. Then a faint metallic click from a nearby rooftop. Down, Tomas yelled. A single silenced. Shot cracked through the air. Glass shattered inside the compound. One of the TVs sparked. Another went black. Jason dove over Isabella, shielding her as alarm screamed. Sniper. Tomas barked. North building. The guards returned fire as Tomas dragged them into the reinforced safe room below ground. Blood ran down Jason's arm. A graze. Nothing fatal, but the message was clear. They weren't safe. Not yet. Down in the bunker. Isabella trembled, not from fear, but fury. They don't care. They'll kill us and spin the story. Jason wrapped his arm around her. That we don't give them the ending they want. They waited it out for hours until sunrise. And then the unexpected happened. a knock not from the door, but from the emergency exit tunnel behind the bunker. While Tomas drew his weapon, no one knows about that tunnel. The knock repeated, 3 soft taps, a pause, then 2. Jason blinked. That's my family signal from when I was a kid. My father taught it to me. Tomas opened the panel slowly only to find an older man standing in the shadows, holding a briefcase. Mr. Thompson, the man said calmly. Jason frowned. Who are you? I represent a group of individuals who've been watching your work closely. You've disrupted something impressive. We want to help. Jason narrowed his eyes. Help how? The man smiled faintly. There's more to clean up. You've opened the door. Now we show you what's behind it. He handed the briefcase to Isabella. Inside, dossiers, names, companies, governments. This goes deeper than brand. You've scratched the surface. Jason and Isabella stared at the contents horrified. Yet, energized. They weren't just targets anymore. They were part of something bigger. The man said one last thing before disappearing into the tunnel. You exposed corruption. Now, are you ready to dismantle it? The briefcase sat on the table like a loaded weapon, except its bullets were truth. Names, offshore accounts, assassination orders, coded communications between high-ranking officials and global CEOs. It wasn't a story anymore. It was a map of rot beneath the world's surface. Jason and Isabella didn't speak for a long time. They just sat in the quiet, staring at the storm they had just survived and the one still coming. Tomas stood in the corner, arms crossed. If we move on this, there's no going back. Jason looked up. There never was. Isabella rose slowly, her hand resting on the briefcase. We didn't just blow a whistle. We rang a bell that can't be unrung. Jason smiled faintly. We started this by accident, but we finished it by choice. Later that week, the footage of Gregory Brandt's takedown went public. Mainstream media couldn't ignore it. Online platforms flooded with clips, articles, and interviews. Jason and Isabella, once total strangers, became the unexpected voices of a silent majority. Whistleblowers from all over the world began to emerge. Data leaks poured in. Politicians fell. CEOs were arrested. Systems cracked. And through it all, Jason and Isabella remained united. He turned his former estate into a foundation, the Rivera Initiative, dedicated to protecting whistleblowers, funding investigations, and restoring public accountability. Isabella became its face. She traveled, spoke, led operations. What had once been an attempt to humble herself turned into a movement. The Maid became a global voice for justice. And Jason, the millionaire who once saw her as a joke, stood beside her not as her savior, but as her partner. Their relationship, rooted in chaos, became something deeper, grounded in purpose, not perfection, built on a kind of trust that only comes from nearly dying together. On the anniversary of the Brandt takedown, they stood on a stage in front of thousands. Isabella took the mic. You don't need power to matter. You don't need wealth to be heard. You just need truth and the courage to speak it. The crowd erupted. Jason stepped up beside her, taking her hand. We thought we were just a people up against giants. Turns out, the giants were afraid of people like us. As they left the stage, a reporter shouted, "Is it over now?" Isabella turned back, smiling. No, it's just beginning. What did you think of Isabella and Jason's story? Share your thoughts in the comments. On a scale from 0 to 10, how would you rate this story? Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications to keep up with all our inspiring stories. Justice isn't just an idea. Sometimes it's a choice, and sometimes the maid doesn't just clean the house. She burns it down and builds something better.